I would like to welcome you all here today to celebrate a milestone. But before we proceed, I would like to elaborate on what exactly this milestone is to us. Now, for those of you who did not get the memo from either reading your invitation to this event or seeing our entire grade up here in cap and gown, this is, in fact, our high school graduation. This is the ceremony in which each and every one of us is going to receive a diploma that marks the end of our high school career and in many ways marks the end of our childhood. This is graduation. Upon arrival here today, you may have already had a solid idea of what will take place at graduation. The entire class of 2014 in our cap and gowns will have proceeded to our seats to the tune of pomp and circumstance. A few speeches will be read and we will receive our diplomas. Meanwhile, half of you will be zoning out and half of you will be weeping. After the ceremony, we will all find our friends and families, take pictures, and then go home and everything will all be over. Now, if you haven't got a clear enough picture in your head of what graduation should look like, allow me to draw an analogy for you. In many ways, high school graduation is like the destruction of the Second Temple. Our ancestors all grew up and lived their lives together as one people in the land of Israel until the temple was destroyed. After that, the Jewish people were no longer whole, and each and every one of them had to go their separate ways, often to never see each other again in the same context. For this reason, the Jewish people wept. That was the Jewish diaspora. Now, in many ways, graduation is similar. Here at SDJA, many of us grew up and lived our lives together for 13 years now. Many of us joined later. But all the same, right now we were one people and we are whole. Graduation marks the end of that. We will now all go our separate ways, maybe to never see each other again, at least in the same context. At this ceremony today, you may find many people weeping here too. And yet, there's a very big difference between our graduation and the Jewish diaspora. When you find many of us weeping here today, we are not weeping tears of sorrow, but rather we are weeping tears of joy. Because to us, graduation isn't about all of us going our separate ways, it's about all of us coming together as one people and whole for the last time. And so, if our graduation is about coming together, we decided to make it so. Each speech was composed with the goal to represent not an individual experience, but the class's collective experience, and was written by anywhere from 1 to 6 writers. And the speeches themselves are not going to be read by one person, but rather by many. We let putting together this ceremony be our final act as one people and whole. And as we proceed with this ceremony, bear this in mind. This is not just graduation, but this is our graduation. One Friday afternoon, gathered on a rug on the floor of our kindergarten classroom,
drinking juice boxes,
we listened intently to our teacher read Shel Silverstein's famous book, The Giving Tree, a short book that tells a big story of spanning the lifetime of a tree and a boy and their unique relationship.
Though we did not realize it at the time, the lessons learned from The Giving Tree on that Friday afternoon would serve as the basis for the next 13 years of our education at the San Diego Jewish Academy. The themes of life, death, giving, taking, helping others, selfless acts, repairing the world. These were the lessons that would be taught to us in all of our classes, be they math, science, English, or Hebrew. Each day, each lesson that we learned, no matter how big or how small, shaped our identities, not only as students, but also as members of the Jewish community and the world as a whole.
So where to start? I guess at the beginning. Lesson number 1, 1 plus 1 equals 2. A seemingly simple lesson, yet also one of the most deceptively complicated. You see, the thing is that 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. And so we are taught at a very young age to accept the things we cannot change. Parents will always worry if we don't text them when we get to school. Dogs will always accidentally eat our homework. And Edline will always induce anxiety attacks. There are some things that are just out of our control. From kindergarten to 12th grade, no matter how old we are, what we're wearing, how much money we have, or what our standardized test scores were, 1 plus 1 is still going to equal 2, and there is nothing we can do about it. We can't change another person's race or sexuality or weight. It is never our place to judge 1 and 1 for always equaling 2. And in turn, it is never our place to judge others or ourselves for things beyond our control.
Lesson 2, friendship. One of the many things that SDJA, or one of the many things that makes SDJA as memorable, moving, and fulfilling as it is, are those with whom we share it. Being part of this unique community is something that we'll cherish for the rest of our lives. The 38 of us lost our first teeth together, danced at each other's barn bat mitzvahs together, and walked through the grounds of Auschwitz and Masada together. And in 2nd grade, we learned about the importance of friendship together while reading Charlotte's Web. In a scene between Wilbur the pig and Charlotte the spider, Wilbur asked, "Why do you do this all for me? I don't deserve it. I've done nothing for you."
You've been my friend, Charlotte replied. That in itself is a tremendous thing. One of the most influential books we read was in our 7th grade English class, The Giver by Lewis Lowry. The book tells the story of a dystopian society where the collective memory is held by an elder called the Giver. He selects one child to succeed him and to receive the community's memories. The Giver teaches the child an important lesson about remembrance. The worst part of holding memories is not the pain, he says. It's the loneliness of it. Memories need to be shared. At SDJA, we became keenly aware of the power of memory and that we are at a crucial time in history where the remaining survivors of the Holocaust are slowly disappearing. And if we are not careful, once they are gone, their stories will become nothing more than a chapter in a textbook. And so, it is our job to keep their stories alive, to be the receivers, and not just keep them, but share them, their memories, their experiences, their lessons, with our children and grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren. It is our duty to make sure that we keep the identity of the Jewish people alive for future generations, to make sure that we never forget who they were, why they suffered, and what it means to be a Jew.
One of the most anticipated events at SDJA is Mrs. Tashoff's annual pumpkin drop. Now, for much of our youth, we attributed the pumpkin drop to just another one of SDJA's uniquely eccentric quirks. It was not until we took advanced classes that we understood the scientific principles behind it, Newton's 3 laws of motion. The first theorem states that an object remains at rest or continues at a constant velocity unless acted on by an external force. This means that if Mr. Tashoff did not pick up our pumpkins and drop them from his cherry picker, nothing would have happened. Our pumpkins would just sit. From this, we learned about far more than physics. We also learned that unless we were an external force taking action, nothing would happen. If we didn't organize a fundraiser to help the victims of Hurricane Katrina or the tsunami in Japan, who would? If we didn't go downtown to San Diego to work at a food pantry or volunteer at VIP Village playing with underprivileged children, who would? If we didn't raise awareness for the genocide in Darfur or keep in touch with our sister school in Charanegan, Who would? If we are not the external force that acts upon the object that is at rest, the world will forever remain at rest. It is our duty to create change, to act, to stand up, to fight for what we believe in. Because those pumpkins, they aren't going to drop themselves.
The final lessons we learned came from the pen of the greatest writer of all time, William Shakespeare. In our 9th and 10th grade humanities, we read everything from Romeo and Juliet to Macbeth to Hamlet, soaking in all of his wisdom. A fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool.
All the world's a stage.
Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
No legacy is so rich as honesty.
We know what we are, but know not what we may be. However, in reflecting on it all, the one quote that stands out is not his most famous, but one found in Act 2, Scene 1 of The Tempest. Antonio and Sebastian stand talking about the life-changing moment that awaits them. Antonio, contemplating this, exclaims, "What's past is prologue." Like Antonio and Sebastian, we are standing at the brink of a life-changing moment. And what's past is prologue indeed. This is just the beginning. We are about to graduate from the San Diego Jewish Academy. And as we look ahead, we realize that our past years at SDJA are nothing more than a prologue to the yet-to-be-told stories of our future. The lessons, values, and relationships fostered here are the foundation for the fulfilling and wonderful lives that we all hope to lead as we build on the memories, experiences, laughter, and tears that we have shared together. So today, looking back all the way to our first kindergarten encounter with the Giving Tree, we now realize that our Giving Tree has been the San Diego Jewish Academy. As we've grown up together, it has given us its apples, leaves, and branches, nurturing and teaching us how we are to live. And now it is time for us to make way for future generations to come and take from the tree that has given us so much. And as we go forth, we take with us these words from Shel Silverstein's Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossible, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be.
To the class of 2014, we raise our juice boxes to you. This has been the best prologue ever written, and we can't wait to find out what happens next. L'chaim.